Well, the time is just gone 8 minutes past 8 as we look ahead this morning at the show at News and Views right here on Asylum Media. And we start off this morning talking with Vusumuzi Sibanda, who is the chairperson of the African Diaspora Forum. And this comes against the issues of Afghans who are actually alleged to be fleeing the Taliban. They are now allowed into South Africa as asylum seekers, and a Pretoria High Court order actually granted 22 Afghanis fleeing the Taliban access to South Africa on asylum transit visas, and that position will stand according to the Department of Home Affairs. Now, what does all of this mean? To unpack this, we go across to be joined by Vusumuzi Sibanda. Vusi, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning and good morning to your listeners, and thank you for inviting me.
Yes, the whole question surrounding the Afghan asylum seekers has been quite a major issue here in South Africa, and we've seen the Home Affairs refusal of the Afghan entry into South Africa, despite a court order that the government will grant them permission to seek asylum. Just what is your reading into these developments?
Well, look, I mean, I think it's very unfortunate to start with that the minister, looked at South Africa as being targeted when people came into the country and they say they were, looking for asylum because they had a well-founded fear, of the Taliban, which we all know about, the issue of, the Talibanese and the terror in Afghanistan. So, I mean, I think to even say simply because an organization, an NGO that is of American, origin, has obviously been the one that has taken the matter to court and then assumed that there is a conspiracy theory. I think it's very sad because the minister is running from shadows and ghosts that we have no clue where they're coming from.
Yes, I think the key issue here is when one looks at the Home Affairs position and the Home Affairs Minister Aaron Motsoaledi saying that they did not think that this was a case of asylum seeking or refugees, but another sinister move by a U.S. embassy to undermine the sovereignty of South Africa.
Exactly, that is the issue because you see, the Minister of Home Affairs is making, statements that are based on nothing but conjecture because there is no fact there. The mere fact that there is an NGO and how an NGO, links with the American embassy because it's not the American embassy that's made an application. Now, the mere fact that, maybe people that are en route or whose sole destination could be to go to America have started to seek, asylum in South Africa. It does not make that wrong because it happens, in international law that somebody whose country where they want to go to is not the place where they start, but they can start somewhere else, while they are en route to a particular destination where they intend, to settle while they flee. So I'm not sure where the minister's information is coming from, but I think his conspiracy theories, are becoming a little absurd.
Yes, but this is not the first time that we've seen people actually seeking asylum in South Africa. We know asylum seekers from all over the world are in this country, and the what the Home Affairs is saying is that although they would abide by the court's decision, this should not be seen as opening floodgates for spurious asylum claims in the country.
Look, in the judgment of Ruta versus Minister of Home Affairs, I think Judge Cameron was very clear, because the Home Affairs, had actually averred that look, the judgment was going to open the floodgates, of abuse of the system, and the judge, Judge Cameron said, look, the Immigration, the Refugees Act, he has got its own fail-safe mechanism because people are interviewed and proper international procedures followed. So whatever happens, if somebody is not a true asylee or refugee, that would come out in the interview that will follow. That information will all be clear. So I don't see the reason why we should always be assuming the worst when we know that if somebody is lying, that should come out. in the application process, and they'll be rejected. And it's not going to be the first time that anybody is rejected, when applying for asylum or refugee status. It happens all over the world that some people come and you find that they are fugitive from justice. Some are making false claims, and when it comes out, they are rejected. So I don't know why the minister has to be so uptight and be jumpy and, continue, to, burden the Department of Home Affairs with such legal costs, when in actual fact you should allow the department that is meant specifically to deal with asylum seekers and refugees to do their work.
Exactly, and the point that you make is there is legislation in place to look at the whole question surrounding refugees and asylum seekers in the country. And at this point in time, when one looks at the minister, when one looks at the Home Affairs Department, they've got so much more, and I'm sure that they've dealt with a lot more in the past, considering the number of refugees that are already in this country.
True. Look, it's not only legislation. I mean, there is a chief director appointed specifically to deal, with the asylum seeker management system. There is refugee reception offices across the country. I mean, there is standard operating procedures. There is regulations. So you then wonder that why does the minister want to become the public relations officer, of that particular, section of the, Department of Home Affairs, which is fully functional, has got staff, has got clear roles, has got a mechanism for people to appeal, which include the standing committee and the refugee appeals, authority. So you would be really worried that why does the minister seem to be meddling? And not only does it end there, but to the extent that he's got to be back to court and go and lose a case that he knows he's obviously going to lose. I mean, it's the taxpayers' money that he's playing games with.
Yes, but is this, because there is a label of the Taliban that is attached to these refugees? Could this be the problem, the main issue?
Well, I don't think so, but in my view, I mean, I think from what the minister says, if I remember quite well, he was actually asserting that in fact the country is under attack, and these people are not necessarily people from Afghanistan. They are not Afghanistan people, but they are deployees of America that are trying to spy on South Africa. So in that particular regard, you then realize that the minister is talking about something that's it's got nothing to do with the Taliban, because the Americans were fighting the Taliban, and surely I'm not thinking that he's trying to assume that the Americans are bringing the Taliban into South Africa, but he's actually talking about a cold war between South Africa and the Americans in particular. And I find that quite sad that the Afghans are people that have got their own problem in their country, and these are people we've seen a lot of them leaving Afghanistan and going elsewhere because of the Talibanese. And now we are going to cry foul when they leave and come into South Africa and then want to blame that on America, having some conspiracy theory. I think that's quite fair.
Yes, just assuming that there is this US NGO that is behind this, of what benefit? I mean, how would the Americans actually gain by these refugees being in South Africa?
You see, this is exactly what is our concern, because what is basically happening is that, the assertion is that an NGO is facilitating, the move of Talibanese of these people in here. And what would they benefit? What is it for them? The American, NGO is not necessarily, related to the Afghans, or to the American embassy. But to say that because the NGO has got roots, or links with America, and that is very sad, because we're talking about lawyers, we're talking about NGOs, which are humanitarian organizations that can be approached by anybody to say, please help here, there is a crisis. And once somebody has asked and sought for help, and then you begin to blame them for being trying to be mischievous, and that is not related at all. So I think the problem that we have here is to always try and find and always have a theory that you are under attack, as has always been the minister's position, because he is always believing that South Africa's laws are being undermined, is always believing that, migrants or refugees or asylum seekers, come to destabilize South Africa, and they're here to destroy the whole country, which is very unfortunate of a minister. Instead of focusing on service delivery and other important things, he's focusing on hearsay and whims of his boss.
Yes, and also, when one looks at in the past, organizations like Human Rights Watch have actually made the statement saying that Afghans are at risk, especially those who have fled or are seeking to flee Afghanistan. They require greater international support. And to the extent that these calls have been made to the likes of the United Nations, to UN agencies, telling governments, Dr. Sibanda, that they should improve assistance to Afghans at risk.
I mean, we know that even the new government, that was put there, when they thought that, okay, they were settling, it quickly fell down. I mean, it quickly turned into pieces because the Taliban, began being who they really are and started attacking people and putting laws that were draconian, that were oppressive, and that were, anti-feminist and all that. So the people of Afghanistan have been under serious attack, and they really need the international community to come together and try and assist them. So to then find the minister coming up with these theories instead of looking at the plea that has always been there is such a shame, because it means that the plight of other people is of no importance, but instead to try and appear as if one is politically correct. Because if you remember, when the minister stated, that it was under attack, and America was attacked, people were quite excited and seemed to side with him because they thought, okay, maybe he got a point, because the story that he was selling, appeared to be showing that South Africa is under attack from the Americans, and why the Americans not taking those people into America. I mean, that's an NGO, and NGO is not American. And therefore, you can't say an NGO has got links or is American into South Africa. Why is that if it's of American origin?
Well, Dr. Vusumuzi Sibanda, we thank you very much for that and for your time with us this morning here on Salam Media. All the best to you. Dr. Vusumuzi Sibanda, the chairperson of the African Diaspora Forum, against this whole debacle that is playing out with regard to the Afghan asylum seekers in South Africa. We're going to go for a break. We'll be back.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.